Oh, Will, are you with us, Will?
Yes, I am here.
My God.
My apologies. It's been a hell of a Monday. It's a classic Monday for me.
Oh, for sure. Thank you for being able to join us. I know you're busy, so I'm super appreciative that you came to join us. And so I know you've been listening. So, weigh in, man. I want to hear your thoughts on what we've been discussing and, some suggestions, all of that good stuff, Will.
Yeah, for sure. And I wasn't listening. I was in my last job and I had no cell service. So that's why I dropped off the call. That's okay. I'm available now. So, talking about conscious parenting, and I'll just say a couple really important, crucial points when it comes to conscious parenting. And, it's all about rights and morality, which are principles. And forgive me if you guys already touched on this, but it comes down to the programming and conditioning of the parent. A conscious parent is one who can bring light to the darkness of ignorance and look at themselves in the mirror and analyze their own programming and conditioning and work to eliminate that. Because this is the thing. In today's age, generational mind control is prevalent. This is the root of it all. Parents are passing their baggage, their emotional baggage. This is psychological transference, right? They're giving it to their kids, and their kids grow up and give it to their kids, so on and so on. This is how false belief systems, like the belief in authority, is so prevalent, and it's getting worse. It's due to incorrect parenting, and that's hard for a lot of people to hear, but that's the truth, right? Yeah. And when, like I'm sure, Jen and Rob got into some of the details of even the medical industry when it comes to birthing and stuff, right?
Yeah, very disturbing what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, the only way a parent is going to become conscious, which is awareness, and see the patterns of what's going on in the world, is to look and sacrifice the time and attention and look into it for themselves. If they don't, who's directly responsible? The children. So for an example, when all the lockdowns were happening with the mask mandates and all this stuff, you saw all these parents getting together and protesting down at like the school district buildings, right? Take the masks off our children. That is the programming and conditioning. They're asking a perceived authority like the school district to take the masks off their children, when in reality, it comes down to responsibility and morality. The parents should have yanked their kids out of school because they are the ones that are facilitating their experience. The responsibility, their ability to respond, is on them. Right. So the belief in authority is one of the most rooted and detrimental ideologies, religions, and belief systems that we have nowadays. And this is, the root of the problem. This is why people look to government and they think there's a political solution, right? When in reality, it's a dialectic. They're just controlling your perception and your behavior to get you to act accordingly and to comply. So, people say when you start getting into all the details of the social engineers and the people behind the veil and the technocratic state, right? All these dark elements. And people always ask, like, is everyone in on it? Like, how could that be? It's so mind blowing to someone. And the answer is yes, everyone is in on it. And I'll explain how. Okay. The majority of people celebrate Christmas. And they believe, or they participate in the belief in Santa Claus, right? They tell their children, there's a Santa Claus. He's watching you. He's watching your behavior. You better be good, right? That is obviously an illusory belief system. It's not based in reality, just like the belief in authority. But here's the thing. At some point, the kids start to grow up, and they figure out there's no Santa Claus. This is just an illusion. This is a mind control tactic that their parents used on them. But what do? They grow up and they have kids and they do it to their kids as well.
Right.
That is an example of the belief in authority, or the belief that rights come from government, or the belief in education is only through government schooling. So this is all illusory, and this is the type of programming and conditioning that parents need to ask themselves. The basic questions: what do I believe in? Why do I believe in this? What do I support? What are my principles? Because this is going to directly affect the children, and the children are going to pass it down generationally.
For sure. 100%. I agree 100%, Will. It was so well said. And that's the scary part, is that I think a lot of the parents are not willing to do that work on themselves, from what I can tell. And they are, instead of doing that work, they're just handing their children off at such a, and I was saying to Rob and Jen earlier, what's disturbing is how young parents now are giving up their children to the system, right? Like, I mean, it used to be kindergarten, and then, and so on, but now you got pre-kindergarten, and then you're putting them in daycare. And I try to tell people this is all by design to try to get you away, to separate you from your child.
Absolutely. And the social engineers know this. Why?
100%.
Because freedom starts within the family dynamic. It always does. We all have parents, right? So a child's understanding, their very beginning of experiencing freedom, comes from their relationship with their parents, the family dynamic. The social engineers know this. They need to put a wedge between child and parents as early as possible. This is why parents sacrifice their children to the state, right? And to culture. Culture is the strong arm of tyranny, right? Because you're cultivating what? You're cultivating a child's mind, their operating system, how they view the world, and this is going to dictate their behavior. So, you're absolutely right. And this again goes to programming for sure. But freedom starts within the family, and parents need to understand what objective morality is. Right. What are the fundamental principles of being a human being? One, self-ownership. You own yourself. You're responsible for your actions. You do not own anyone else. This includes your children, parents. You do not own your kids.
Exactly.
You can't even, you shouldn't even force them to do anything, right? You should influence and inspire and guide them. And the second principle, obviously, is the non-aggression principle. You owe everything one thing, and that's non-aggression.
Yep.
Do no harm. And the third principle is, if there's harm aggressed upon you, what do? You defend yourself, the self-defense principle. And these are the principles. It's all encompassing in objective morality and natural rights. And this is the foundation of being a facilitator of a human being.
Mm-hmm. And that is not what they're teaching in our school system, Will. I can tell you that 100%. They're not teaching that. And I mean, and how many parents are teaching this to their children? I mean, I get what you're saying. And that's why the parents have to start doing the work on themselves, and to get in align their behavior with natural law and objective morality. And until they do that, there's no, they have to do this if they wanted to raise their children properly, and not give them over to the school system and the state and the social engineers. As you said, they want you separated. They want they want your family separated by all means. Yeah.
People are more, they're more focused on how other people see themselves.
Yes. Yep.
When they should be worried about and focused on how their children view them. Right? So mom and dad, and there's the majority of situations is a co-parenting situation, like myself. So this is very important for each parent to understand these moral principles and communicate this to the other parent. You're always going to be a parent. You might have, your kids might be adults by now, but you still have that influence and that inspiration by being the example. So.
Right. And that's the one, and Rob and Jen and I were talking about this when you were able to come on. I was kind of talking to them about when I talk to parents about educating their children and homeschooling them, and that's the way they should do it, get them out of the schooling system and start actually being a parent and teaching them the right way. And I was saying, like, when I talk to them, people I know that have children, they immediately go to, they don't have time, how they supposed to pay their bills if they're always taking care of their children. They got to pay for their house or their bills and put food on the table, basically. And I hear that the most, is what they're saying, is that there's no time to teach your children. How are you supposed to teach them and school them when you're trying to just keep a roof over their head? And I think that's because they're looking at it as teaching their children the same way that the school system does. So I'd like to get your thoughts on, and maybe give some advice to parents out there. How do they get their children out of the school system and in the house and doing it the right way?
Yeah, phenomenal question. Absolutely. And again, I'll bring it back to programming and conditioning. You can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. Meaning, to know something, you must gather information and process that information, and then you can output it in behavior. So you have to do your research, but also understand that the majority of people that are considering to homeschool or unschool or use self-directed learning, which is ultimately where you want to be, right? You need to look at what you think it is. So, for example, homeschooling, a lot of people think that they have to mimic the public school curriculum and system within their home, set up a room in their house, and their kids are going to be in a seat for 6-7 hours, and they're going to do block schedules of curriculum and categories, and that's not how the real world operates.
Exactly.
Learning is at random times in life. Now, the only way you're going to retain any type of information where it becomes knowledge, because it becomes a part of you and you retain that information, is if you're internally motivated, right? Parents are giving up their kids for 7-8 hours a day in public school for 5 days a week, for 12 years, right? And they only retain a fraction of that information. And what it actually does is it creates trauma and a disassociation within the psyche of the child, meaning they relate learning and education to their public school experience. And a lot of people think, well, I did high school, junior college or college, and I'm done. My education is done, when learning is actually lifelong. And the world, our experience, is the classroom. So my suggestion for parents that want to pull their kids out, which I highly recommend, there are organizations. First, start simple. Start gathering information in your local area about unschooling or homeschooling groups, and communicate with these groups. Trust me, you're going to find many resources. I'll give you a website, David James Rodriguez. He has the homeschoolleader.org, I think it is. He does one-on-one curriculums and plans to get your child or children out of the educational system and even graduate them early outside of government schooling as well. And just his social media groups, and there's a plethora of information on there. He also helped republish John Taylor Gatto's books. So highly recommend David James Rodriguez, and also the phenomenal Dana Martin.
Right.
She's got a really great book with the radical unschooling and peaceful parenting. Now, I'll say this: every family is different. This is the beauty of the family dynamic. You're not going to, there's not a cookie cutter way. So there's a relativity to it on how a family operates, but the objectivity for everyone should be moral principles, morality. So yeah, look into, there's some states where the government comes down kind of hard on parents. They want to check in with parents to make sure their parents are doing some kind of schooling and stuff. There's tons of loopholes. My daughter, we homeschooled her all the way up till 8 years old, and we were still affiliated with a charter school. So it was a homeschool charter school. Our curriculum was self-directed learning, meaning whatever our daughter was into, we provided resources, support, and inspiration for her to meet her needs and look into that. She's very much into animals. We got her an apprenticeship on a farm, and, kids are going to flip-flop. They're going to be into one thing, for a month or two or whatever, then they're going to go to something different. And that is great. Promote that. Promote questioning and promote the imagination, because this is what public school demotes and dims is imagination. And where we have imagination, we have creativity. And where we have creativity, we manifest.
Right. Exactly. And I also think that parents, when they want to start homeschooling too, I understand, and I totally get, Will, that people have bills to pay and stuff like that. I get it. That's the world that we live in, unfortunately. And you need to buy food for your family. So parents do have to work and provide that way. And so, and Rob and I, Jen, we're talking about this too, that, sacrifices may have to be made if you want to do this properly and raise your children properly. You may not be able to have a mansion and 4 cars and a boat and all of these things that they're, making. That's why you have to work so much, is to pay for all this stuff. There's sacrifices that have to be made. And are you willing to make these sacrifices for your children?
Absolutely. There's sacrifice in anything in life, right? Yep. The word sacrifice means to give up to, right? To give away to. So what are you giving away to? Well, you're giving away your time and attention, which is currency, your energy. Mm-hmm. And then what are you sacrificing to? So we see a lot of parents that give their children up to the state or up to culture where, they're just watching TV nonstop. And so, yes, there is sacrifice that will have to be made, but it's absolutely worth it for your children. Parents need to make harder sacrifices. They're going to have to be uncomfortable. There's risk in everything. And we need to face those fears, because the social engineers are working against us. They know that as they distract the older generations, they program and condition, they mind control the younger generations, because the younger generations, the young minds, are going to support, condone, and instill the tighter system of slavery and control for the future.
100%. And that's what I wanted to ask you too. And we kind of touched on this in our interview, which will be premiering tomorrow night, guys, on my YouTube channel. By the way, I do have an interview with Will. It's a video interview on my YouTube channel. We cover amazing topics, so definitely check that out. It'll be on tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. It'll be premiering Eastern Standard Time on my channel. So it's an amazing interview. I hope you guys will check it out. And what we were kind of talking about, we've talked about like on air and off air, Will, is that I see the trend of parents, and I want to get Jen and Rob's take on this too, is that I'm seeing them, parents letting technology raise their kids. And that is something that I find really disturbing. I've seen it firsthand with people around me, is that they're not spending time with their children and bringing them out in nature and teaching them, or gardening, or just spending quality time with them. They're handing them a phone, they're handing them a tablet, they're putting them in front of the TV on a video game. And I just want to get your thoughts, because there's definitely we're going to see the damage and the repercussions of doing this with the young minds and our children in the future. There's going to be a blowback to this if we're letting technology raise our children and not doing the quality work and time with them.
Yeah, I'll speak on that real quick and then let Rob and Jen touch on it.
Perfect.
There's 2 ways to create change in this reality. And the first one is philosophy. This is the internal dialogue that you have with yourself to figure out a problem. And then the second is technology. This is the external solution, right? We have a problem, we figure out the solution, and then we can create technology to help aid us in that problem. Now, so I used to be the guy that was 100% anti-technology, but we need to understand and accept that we live in a technology realm that's being used to control and enslave humanity. So we need to understand that technology is a tool. It's not necessarily negative or positive. It's a tool. It all depends on the wielder of the tool. So from the parental aspect, yes, I regulate technology. My daughter and I will watch a movie once in a while. We don't have an iPad, and she doesn't, stay on a phone or an iPad or anything like that. And we even removed our TV when she was younger, all the way up till about 7. And then we brought in VHS tapes for movie nights, right? So pretty conservative, but you need to strike that balance where you explain and communicate to your child what technology is, and that it can be used for good and bad. And you don't want your children to be completely Luddites or illiterate to technology, because unfortunately this is our reality. It's very technological. So we do have to strike that balance.
Right, and not let the technology babysit our children.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people, they do that, right? It's like, well, the child out of sight, kind of out of mind. They're happy, they're on their device, and they're kind of let that do the babysitting. And that is not exactly what you're saying. It's not the way you want to go. It's a tool, and use it for the right reasons, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Right. And do you guys want to weigh in on this, Rob and Jen? I'd like to hear your thoughts on what we're talking about.
We've had ups and downs with technology ourselves. There was a couple years where we didn't use technology at all, and we always keep like airplane mode on and Wi-Fi off, that kind of thing. We've been doing that for years. There's a lot of studies in other countries, and there's other countries that ban Wi-Fi in schools, and you have to look at why they do that. And the stuff is, the stuff's definitely playing a role, and I believe in what's going on with our medical reasons and all the all the diseases. Can't even say that word right now. And so if we do let the girls play on the phone, like they're programmed to have airplane mode, and we've even let our 3-year-old now. And I know that sounds crazy, but he plays a couple games. He likes colors. He likes learning about colors. He's already known his colors since he was 2, but for some reason he's still like color games and putting puzzles together and stuff like that. But he knows at 3, he's not 3 yet, but he knows to have airplane mode on. So, supposedly, you're not getting the same radiation if airplane mode's on. So hopefully it's true.
So in their own literature, they say that kids under, what's the age?
I don't remember. It's like 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah, you're not supposed to watch
TV.
Yeah, their brain can't understand that kind of stuff. So, it's like MK Ultra. I look at TV as straight MK Ultra. It's straight programming. That's why they call it TV programming. or television, right? Someone's telling a vision, and they're programming you with different programs, and whatever program you like, you'll be programmed with. So it's just so obvious to me. So yeah, we limit the stuff too. And if we do watch something and we're like, man, this is bad, like we'll explain to them like the programming that's going on. Like, do you see right here what they're doing, and like what they're trying to say here, and explain things. So
right. Yeah, and that's the thing. You got to be willing to spend the time to raise your children, right? And not let technology do it. And I just brought that up because I've seen it firsthand. I've seen like children younger and younger, they got phones in their hand and tablets in their hand, and they're just glued to them. And if you take that away for some reason, I've seen children have a meltdown when they take that device away. Like the parent will say, no, I'm taking it away from you. And I just saw the reaction that this child had. And I'm just like, this is not good. Like this can't be good. It's not. And I've told Will before, and I've told people I was very fortunate when I was raised, because my mother always had me out in nature and we were going on hikes and we were gardening. We were doing all of these cool things. Like I don't remember spending a lot of time in the house. I just remember going out and exploring the world. And I think that is really missing now. And I don't think parents are taking the time or making the sacrifice to do that. And I think it's so important. So, I mean, what do you think, Will? I mean, like, do you see, I guess what I'm trying to say is, can you let people know the benefits of homeschooling? Like, and same with you, Rob and Jen, like, can you let people know that if you do pull them out of the schooling system, and let people know that there is huge benefits to doing it the right way and being with your child and that quality time?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I highly recommend, first, going back to sacrifice, right? I mean, you gotta get involved with your kids, but get on their level. Do things that they're interested in. I'm very much into life skills, right? So gardening, foraging, building stuff. This is real intrinsic value.
Exactly.
Intrinsic value, comes from nature. Right. So it's not gold. It's not silver. It's not, paper money or anything like that. Nothing has perceived value. Real intrinsic value is life skills. It's so important to do that, especially early on in a child's life, especially in the formative years. You promote and learn with your child, so they fall in love with learning and they understand the natural world, right? They can see the difference between social media, the artificial, the fake realm of reality versus the natural world. And I think that's really important. Like Rob was saying, the television was designed to be a propaganda machine to control and influence minds, especially young minds. And, we see all the Disney stuff going on right now, right? Which, first of all, has been going on for years. This is nothing new, right? This awareness is coming maybe for the first time for people. This is just the next stage of what they're doing. But they've been at these agendas for many, many years. Yep. And this is what pop culture is, right? They want your kids' minds. So absolutely, the benefits is responsibility. As a parent, you have a responsibility to care for your child, physically, emotionally, and mentally, which is everything spiritual. That is the spiritual aspect.
Yep.
So yeah, you have a responsibility for that. So having that awareness, you have an awareness of what's going on and what's being manufactured towards human beings nowadays. So even though it is dark, that's the point, is to look at the dark to bring the light of knowledge to that. So yeah, you got to do your homework.
You got to do it right and get educated for sure, and start learning about natural law and objective morality and start teaching it. First, the adults got to learn it. That's the first step, I think, and then definitely passing it on to their children, which I think is gonna, has to be done. And so I hope parents start looking into that and aligning with it. And I'm just checking time. God, time flies when you're having great conversations here. So I've got about probably 4 minutes or so, and I just want to make sure I get you guys to let everybody know where they can find you, find your work, and all of that great stuff. So I'll start with you, Will, and then I'll have Rob and Jen tell everybody where they can find their work and all of that. So let everybody know about yourself, Will, and where they can find your presentations, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, right on. And again, my apologies for jumping on late, but I'm glad I got some words in, and I appreciate you, Rick, and Rob and Jen for this interview. So again, my name's Will Keller. You can go to my website, which is naturalfreedomleague.com. And there's a whole bunch of resources and information. My partner John Rowland and I, we have a video podcast every Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. I also have my own individual work. I give presentations as well. I have a 2-part series on conscious parenting that I highly recommend people check out. You can also find my work on the onegreatworknetwork.com under Will Keller. And actually, and then Freedom Under Natural Law is the FUNL Conference. And today is April 11th, so it's 4/11, right? For information, and we actually announced today on social media and on the website that we are doing a Funnel 2. That's Natural Freedom Alliance. Rob and Jen are a part of that, and we're really excited. That's going to be September 10th and September 11th. So we're quite a ways away, but this is the first day that we're announcing that. And Funnel 2, and in the title of the conference is Convergence, and it's a freedom conference, natural law, morality, and solution based.
Amazing. I'll be still looking forward to that. Wow. Thank you so much, Will. That is great. And now up to you and Rob and Jen. Where can people find your work? Let them know about anything you want them to know, what you got coming up. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so we have only done one presentation, and that was at the FUNL Conference #1. And just so that people know, it's a little dry. It was our first presentation ever. It took us like 10 hours to record that. We're up to 3:30 in the morning, so it's a little dry. However, we got Funnel 2 coming up. We did do it. We have done other podcasts. We don't know if we're going to release them yet. And so we're working on a series called Conscious Conception and focused on, natural law principles, meaning, the difference between right and wrong. So not harming your baby when your baby's born and knowing what that means and how to do it. And then even before that, like consciously conceiving and what that means. And so we'll be doing a series until we feel like we've got all the words out there, then we'll move on from there. So we're going to be starting with morality. And we have an Odyssey channel to find our stuff. It's called Natural Law Birth. We also have YouTube. It's called Natural Law Birth. And a Facebook page, Natural Law Birth. And we will be buying the website soon. So we haven't created our website, or our information for now is at something called speaktruthtees.com, which is a website that was designed for people to buy shirts. I feel like that we're billboards everywhere we go. And so I found that it was easier wearing shirts that spoke things, and people would talk to me. And so I started a website with just, government is slavery, or, definitions of anarchy and government. And so people would bring up conversations out in public that you would not normally be able to do with people.
Right.
So wearing shirts, it brings up great conversation. So so for now our work's at speaktruthtees.com. And yeah, we will be buying naturallawbirth.com in the next week and developing that website and
amazing. Amazing. And thank you. And that your presentation was not dry, in my opinion. It was very good and lots of information. So I don't think that at all. I think it was amazing, and I hope people check it out. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to come and tackle this. I know it's a tough subject, and it's something that needs to be talked about, and it's not talked about enough. So I want to thank you, Will Keller, for joining me. I want to thank you, Rob and Jen Smith, for coming and joining me. You guys are always welcome back, and you guys have yourself a great evening. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.